Hello, and welcome to the 95th Annual World Trade Week Southern California Kickoff Conference. I'm David Ono, anchor for ABC 7 Eyewitness News, and it is my pleasure to be here with you today. In my work, I have been fortunate to have traveled around the world, as well as speak with so many different people here at home. I noticed one consistent theme, that although we are often apart, we're all still connected, which makes this event so incredibly important. While the pandemic still does not allow us to be physically together as in previous years, I'm excited to see you online today. For over 90 years, the LA Area Chamber's World Trade Week has been the most extensive and unique program of its kind. Its legacy of promoting the benefits of global trade highlights how vital trade is to a strong local and national economy. As our communities look toward economic recovery, global trade has supported our region through crisis and will be one of the most important drivers of recovery in the days and years ahead. We have an exciting event for you today, but before we begin our programming, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Without their generosity and dedication to the industry, today's program, the scholarships, and the annual educational programs, this event would not be possible. Their partnership is integral in the success of the World Trade Week Southern California initiative and to the industry. Please, let's take a moment and recognize our sponsors. Now I have the distinct pleasure to introduce an inspiring leader. Through her leadership, the Chamber has leaned in to help provide business the resources they need to weather the pandemic, restore jobs, and keep our communities healthy. With her vision of supporting a thriving region for all, the Chamber has championed policies to support economic recovery, a flourishing global region, welcoming to international travelers and businesses alike. Please join me in welcoming the President and CEO of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, Maria S. Salinas.
Thank you, David, for that warm introduction. And thank you for once again joining us as our MC. Before we begin, I would like to again thank and recognize our presenting sponsor, Ontario International Airport. Please join me in thanking them and all the sponsors of today's program. As we face the challenges of economic recovery from the pandemic, international trade must be restored. To Los Angeles, it's one of our most promising opportunities to build our economy back, better than before. The Chamber understands the power of international trade and the potential it presents for businesses in Southern California. As I reflect on this last year, a year of uncertainty and great challenges for families and businesses, I am comforted by the promise of tomorrow. The ingenuity, resiliency, and determination of our communities has stuck with me the most. The Los Angeles region remains a center of innovation, facing challenges and reimagining a stronger global economy with a robust workforce. This region is paving the way for economic growth that is needed to bring back California and bring back the nation. This chamber is a champion for a global region and remains committed to each of you, exporters, importers, investors. Los Angeles is about international business and we are proud to partner with you. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the program, and I look forward to seeing you all in person soon.
And now, please enjoy a presentation from World Trade Week sponsor and crucial partner of both the Chamber and the Southern California region, Ontario International Airport. I now have the honor to introduce a partner to the Chamber and champion for our city. Through his leadership, he has advanced infrastructure and measures supporting the marginalized populations in our city. His office has been laser-focused, ensuring a swift response to the pandemic, vaccine distribution, and our homelessness crisis. His impact is felt across the city, nation, and the world, and his vision and exemplary service to Los Angeles is unmatched. Please join me in welcoming the 42nd Mayor of Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mayor Eric Garcetti, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 95th Annual World Trade Week. Los Angeles and the greater Southern California region has long been a crossroads of global commerce and global trade. And during this pandemic, in spite of unprecedented challenges to our trade and supply chains, LA's international trade community stepped up and demonstrated remarkable determination, resilience, and ingenuity. As a result, LA was able to continue providing critical goods, essential services, and life-saving supplies to our neighbors, to our region, the rest of the country, and the world. Last October, LAX was the leading destination in the US for imports of N95 respirators, masks, and other personal protective equipment. In February, the Port of Los Angeles saw 7 consecutive months of year-over-year increases, and the strongest February in the port's 114-year history. So many of you helped to keep the lights on, trade flowing, and families together. So thank you for all you did to save lives and livelihoods during one of LA's darkest winters. And I also want to acknowledge my friend Maria Salinas for her leadership and support of our local businesses throughout this difficult time. Mark Thorpe for helping to keep us connected through Ontario International Airport and for providing the vision for our second ever virtual World Trade Week. And Susan Ross for her well-deserved recognition as this year's recipient of the Stanley T. Olafson Award. Moving forward, international trade and investment will be crucial for our recovery and our efforts to create a more sustainable and equitable economy for all Angelenos. Know that I and my team will continue to work with the community to track markets and trends, to find new opportunities from Vietnam to Kenya, for local businesses to grow and to thrive, and our ports and airports will continue to operate safely without interruption and do so much more sustainably with the power of global partnerships. A good example is the C40 Green Ports Forum, a city and port collaboration that I'm proud to initiate as chair of C40 Cities, a partnership that will help port cities around the world to set ambitious decarbonization goals and to implement zero-emission technologies, so that as we grow international trade and build back our exports, we're also tackling climate change and ensuring a healthy environment for every neighborhood in LA. I look forward to working with all of you to drive our economic recovery and our region's future prosperity. And I thank you for your commitment to international trade and investment and to LA. Never bet against LA. We're going to be coming back, and I wish you a very successful and productive World Trade Week.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti, for your vision and dedication to this region. It is now my pleasure to introduce the World Trade Week Chair for 2021, Mark Thorpe. As the Chief Executive Officer of the Ontario International Airport Authority, Mark oversees the operations and economic development for a crucial point of travel. With over 18 years of experience in the aviation industry, Mark's experience stretches across more than 40 countries, from the Asia-Pacific region, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Please help me in welcoming Mark Thorpe.
Hi, I'm Mark Thorpe from the Ontario International Airport Authority. I'm honored to be the chair of this year's World Trade Week Committee. I'd like to thank all the members of the committee and all the staff of the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce and in particular, my Vice Chair, Scott Santoro of Delta Airlines, for all the hard work that they've put in to making this event a reality. In the 17 years that I've been involved with this event, I've never seen anything like it. Having lived in different parts of the United States, I don't know of any other event that highlights world trade and the impact that international commerce has on a region like this event does here for us in Southern California. This year has been an unprecedented year of challenge and even crisis, but I think more than ever before, we've seen the important impact that international trade has on not just our own country, our own region, our own country, but also the entire world. International trade truly has been the lifeline for economies and populations around the globe. One of the silver linings in times of challenge like this is that there's opportunities for us to look as we recover at doing so in a different way, with greater innovation, reassessing the way we've done things in the past and not necessarily feeling tied to those as things that we have to continue to do in the future. So it's a great opportunity to me to reassess how we go about carrying on international trade, not only this year and in the years to come. So while I hope that we're all together again next year, I think this year's event is going to be a great opportunity for us to look at and reassess not only how we recover, but the way that we recover, and to do so in a smarter, better way that not only brings great benefit to our own companies and our own individual careers, but also to our region, to our country, and to countries around the globe. Thank you again for being part of World Trade Week 2021, and I look forward to a great several days and sessions with you.
Thank you, Mark, for your dedication and tremendous leadership. Now it's time for some fun. I want to remind you there is an exciting silent auction happening right now. All of the bidding is being hosted online, and you can participate from your phone or your computer. I invite you to take a look at the wonderful travel packages, the wine, the great family activities, and so much more. All the proceeds will go to benefit World Trade Week's year-round activities, education programs, and initiatives, so please bid on as many items as you would like. Los Angeles is truly a global city with more than 100 consulate generals and trade offices, making Southern California the third largest home to diplomats and consular corps in the United States, just after Washington, D.C. and New York. I would like to take a moment to recognize all of the countries being represented by consul generals and trade officers who are joining us today. If you are representing one of these countries today, please drop a greeting in the chat box. Please join me in acknowledging some additional important guests. Throughout the storied history of World Trade Week, education has been a key cornerstone of the program. For years, the World Trade Week Education Committee has sought to engage the next generation of global trade leaders. Their mission is to increase awareness about the various career opportunities within international trade industries. This year, the Chamber celebrated an exceptional group of 18 young leaders who are pursuing careers in global trade. Each student received a scholarship thanks to the generous support of the World Trade Week sponsors. We invite each of you to visit the Chamber's YouTube channel at youtube.com/Los Angeles Chamber to watch and hear from the future leaders of international trade and student scholarship winners. Here's a quick look at the highlights.
Hi, my name is Valeria Barrera and I attend Port of Los Angeles High School.
Thank you so much for your generous donation and your support in my pursuit of a career in global environmental studies.
It also boosted up my confidence because it shows me that someone else believes in me and will give me a shot in this opportunity.
I just wanted to take a brief moment to thank all of you, your exceptional accomplishments, and your exceptional pursuit in this industry.
This is why I'm so incredibly proud to be here, to honor the next generation of global business leaders. We greatly appreciate the amazing students we are honoring here this evening, along with their dedication and hard work.
Congratulations to all the scholarship winners. Now, this is my favorite part of the program. Each year, the World Trade Week Awards Committee selects companies and organizations in various categories to recognize their contributions to the international trade community. This year, the Chamber is thrilled to honor 5 companies, including Leaf Labs, winner of the Export Achievement Award, which recognizes companies who have demonstrated success in exporting or providing products or services over the past 2 years. Mercury Air Cargo Inc., Next Trucking, and Pacific Harbor Lines, winners of the New Innovator in Trade Award, which recognizes companies who have developed innovative products to transform processes, enhancing global competitiveness. And Los Angeles Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association, winner of the Bob Kleist Leadership Award, which honors an organization who has demonstrated visionary leadership in the support of international trade. Please join me in taking a closer look at the leaders and organizations selected as this year's winners.
My name is Nathan Cox, the Chief Business Development Officer at Leaf Labs. We're a dietary supplement contract manufacturer who specializes in product development and formulation for different products across the entire supplement industry, like sports nutrition, health and wellness, specialty ingredients. International continues to be a big segment in the dietary supplement space. We have a strategy to continue to vet different countries through the U.S. Commercial Services and other market reports that we're able to get through trade organizations. Main focus has been on the Middle East and Southeast Asia. They have a high demand for USA-made dietary supplement goods, but we do look to continue to expand into Eastern Europe, Australia, other markets as well. Lots of opportunities out there globally.
Mercury Air was founded by 3 AVG pilots in 1956. They brought their skills to Mines Field, which was the previous name for Los Angeles Airport, and they provided maintenance and fuel for non-commercial aircraft. In 2020, you can summarize the challenges with 2 words: unpredictable and COVID. During this period, in March, middle of March, most of our passenger carriers, all of our passenger carriers, and some of our freighter carriers grounded their aircraft. Strangely enough, or now in retrospect, freighter aircraft started to fill the sky. We went from 3 to 4 freighters a week to 28 freighters a week. Necessity is the mother of invention, and we found during COVID, one lesson we learned is we have to do more with less. So in comes innovation. Innovation is going to be the driver. Our responsibility is to provide a reliable service that is cost-effective. So our job is to innovate.
I'm Chris North. I've been with Next Trucking for about 5 years. I've held various roles in sales, technology, people, and culture. I'm currently the manager of new markets, tasked with expanding Next to port cities all throughout the country. Next is a venture-backed freight technology startup on a mission to build the largest and happiest virtual trucking fleet throughout the nation. Our mobile app powers the first trucker-centric marketplace designed to make it easy for shippers to get the capacity that they need, but specifically for drivers to book the loads that they want. Since our founding in 2015, over 16,000 drivers have moved over 50 billion in cargo, and we're just getting started. As we've seen this past year, automation and touchless technology added huge benefit for these drivers, right? Minimizing in-person interactions, alleviating issues, and just making their job more efficient. This really frees the drivers from time-consuming tasks in order for them to just focus on the road ahead. Automation and technological change is already reshaping the growth in this just digital revolution. Pressures on the supply chain on recent years have just jump-started the new era of innovation. Thanks to technologies like AI, advanced data analytics, machine learning, automation and new technologies can alleviate the many pain points that we see within logistics. making the whole underlying process more efficient and opening opportunities for trade.
Pacific Harbor Line began operation in 1998 as a solution to the complex impediments facing the San Pedro Bay ports. Nearly 23 years later, we continue to thrive as a neutral short-line railroad operator responsible for moving international commerce throughout the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Naturally, this past year has been one of the most challenging in our company's history. An unrelenting pandemic resulted in huge shifts in customer behavior, travel demands, and elevated risk of operating a business, which in turn forced our team to quickly adjust to these changes.
Today, we must be able to track and transmit accurate data to help our supply chain partners grow their businesses.
Nonetheless, we found ourselves in a position where the entire team had to come together and find solutions.
Innovation and continuous improvement plays a huge role in our company's resilience strategy, and it was especially evident in 2020.
The Los Angeles Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association was established over 70 years ago. Our members are comprised of customs brokers, freight forwarders, and non-vessel common operators. We have circa 300 members, all in the LA area, and over 5,000 local jobs. We handle imports and exports in and out of the United States. We work with all countries and all commodities. Global trade is very fluid. It is changing at the velocity that we've never seen before, honestly. Not only on the regulatory side, but also on the technical side. We're now talking about blockchain, we're talking about artificial intelligence, and we're talking about distributive ledgers, stuff that I didn't even know what it meant a year ago, is really starting to touch trade. We had a sea change happening. Lots of tariffs that were imposed for aluminum and steel and China goods, and the European Union and Boeing and Airbus dispute. And that's what I think we were still relevant to our members, and we still offered them value. Our hope for the next generation of global leaders is that they have a clear path forward in our industry.
Mercury Air is honored to be the recipient of the 2021 Innovation of Trade Award. Thank you very much.
We sincerely thank the World Trade Week Committee for selecting Pacific Harbor Line for the Innovator in Trade Award.
I'd like to thank the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce and the World Trade Week Committee for bestowing this Innovator Award upon myself and Pacific Harbor Line.
We're very proud to be the recipients of this year's Bob Kleiss Leadership Award. We're very honored to be the recipients. Thank you so very much.
Congratulations to our winners. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Chamber's 2021 Board Chair, Raul A. Anaya, to present the Stanley T. Olafson Bronze Plaque Award. Mr. Anaya is a 30-plus year veteran of the Bank of America team, currently serving as President of Business Banking nationally, and also as President of the Greater Los Angeles region. The Chamber and the region have been grateful to be able to count on his leadership during these unparalleled times. Please welcome Raul.
It is my great pleasure to be with you today, and I'm especially honored to present the Stanley T. Olafson Bronze Plaque Award. Originally presented in 1933, this prestigious honor is one of the Chamber's oldest and most celebrated awards. Since its inception, the Stanley T. Olafson Award has been presented to a member of the international trade community whose outstanding dedication, efforts, and achievements in their field have advanced trade in the Southern California region. This award pays homage to the founder of World Trade Week, Stanley T. Olafson, who showed tremendous foresight and organized the first World Trade Week in 1926, during a time of relative isolationism within the United States. The creation of World Trade Week was to build community awareness about the ports of both Los Angeles and Long Beach, but also to show that our harbors and ports play an important role in the national economy. I would like to take a moment to recognize the past recipients of this great honor, some of whom are celebrating with us today. This year, we have the honor of recognizing yet another distinct leader in our industry whose outstanding dedication and impact cannot be denied. Susan K. Ross is well known for her accomplishments and extraordinary efforts in enhancing global trade opportunities, not just in our region, but across the entire nation. Her contributions to help prepare the next generation with the challenges and opportunities of world trade are spotlighted through her mentorship and professional life. Sue has been an admirable role model for the international trade community, especially as chair of the District Export Council of Southern California and co-founder of groups like Women in International Trade. She supports both the Los Angeles and the Orange County communities as a strong role model for women. Please join me in congratulating and welcoming Susan K. Ross, a partner with Mitchell, Silberberg & Knupp, LLP.
Good morning and thank you. Anytime you are acknowledged for whatever your efforts may be, and that certainly is what's going on this morning, there are always a lot of people to thank. I'd like to start by thanking the Los Angeles Chamber for this great honor, and an honor it is. Very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate the acknowledgement. And anytime you are honored, it's both flattering and humbling, but there are always a lot of people to thank. To start with, I want to thank the various people that I've had the pleasure of working with over the years in various trade associations, currently being the Foreign Trade Association, the District Export Council, and a number of other ones. They've all been tremendous in supporting my efforts, and I hope I've been equally helpful in supporting theirs. There are also any number of individuals within the trade community as a whole, and I'm not going to even try to name them because I'll leave somebody out. But I do want to also acknowledge and thank my law firm for their support over the years. I've come up with a number of what might otherwise be seen as kind of harebrained ideas, and they've always been able to back them. But most of all, I really need to thank my family. I get asked a lot how I manage to do what I'm doing, and the answer is they put up with a lot of crap from me. I come from a long line of pushy broads. I've used that line in a number of occasions, and people kind of chuckle and shudder a little bit, but I explained that it really came from my grandmother and being a widow in her 20s in the 1920s and having to support her family, and at a time when women didn't work and were actually basically only at home, and certainly if they did work, they didn't have responsible positions. She went from Vienna, Austria to open her company's accounting practice in Budapest, Hungary. So she's the first of the pioneers in our family, and I hope I've done her justice in terms of trying to really be out there and do the things that need to be done. And finally, the rest of my family, and in particular my husband. Some of you have met him. You know that he looks exactly like what he is, which is a biker. Lots of tattoos, lots of the bald head, the earring and all of that. Sweetest guy in the world. Has put up with a tremendous amount of what has gone on in my life and been supportive of it throughout. I've told this story in other occasions, just so you all understand that he knew what he was getting into. If you've been to a Jewish wedding, you know that at the end of the wedding, it's customary to take a glass. The rabbi puts the glass in a napkin, puts it on the ground. The concept is the groom steps on it, breaks the glass, and it does away with the bad luck that the couple will have. Well, we got to that point in our ceremony, and my husband stepped on the glass, kind of half missed it, half hit it, broke it, and from the back of the temple, one of my law school colleagues was heard to say, "That's the last time he's going to get to put his foot down." Not true. And anybody that knows him knows that is not true. But I always say that any award I get is half his for putting up with all of the craziness that goes on with my being able to do what I'm able to do to the extent that I'm able to do it. And then finally, we have a lot of issues going on right now. There's a Chinese, I call it a proverb, other people call it a curse, which goes, "May you live in interesting times." And we certainly do. And so I hope for those of you that are in attendance today and the greater trade community as a whole, that we will be seeing each other, whether we're working on digital tax, social accountability, trade with China, the 301 tariffs, or whatever it may be, because there's a lot of work left to do, and I don't want to leave out port congestion issue, which is the big one that we're all facing right now. But I certainly hope to see all of you there. Finally, I'd like to thank again the LA Chamber of Commerce for this honor. Thank you also to the audience for your attention, and have a terrific World Trade Week.
Thank you and congratulations to all of our award winners. Next, we are in for an exciting keynote segment. As the CEO of Delta Airlines, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and one of Fortune magazine's The World's 50 Greatest Leaders, our special guest knows more than most about being an industry leader. Please join me in welcoming Delta CEO Ed Bastian as he joins Maria Salinas for a conversation about the impact of the airline industry as Southern California's greatest international trade opportunity during the next 2 decades.
Thank you, David. I have the pleasure of hosting this conversation with our keynote speaker, the CEO of Delta Airlines. Please welcome Ed Bastian. So let me officially welcome you to this part of our session this morning and to have this conversation with you. It really is a pleasure to welcome you, Ed, on behalf of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce and the World Trade Week Committee here for this hopefully intimate dialogue on something that is near and dear to Los Angeles, which is travel, tourism. You know that is a big industry here. And to hear from you in terms of your insights, following this past year and the pandemic and the devastation that was felt economically, nowhere was it seen greater than within the airline industry. Would love to get your perspectives on your experience, how Delta adapted, and maybe even a little bit of your outlook.
Well, thank you, Maria. It's great to be with you and appreciate your invitation, and great to be in front of so many of your great leaders in the Los Angeles, particularly international community. This past year, as you can imagine, for all of us was a year that we look back on, and it was an amazing year in some respects. It's a year I never want to repeat. I'm sure I can share that with everyone. Unfortunate sadness with the tragic loss of so many lives and so much, such a challenging year. But through it all, we've made it out, and we're now into year 2 of this period, and I've termed this second year the recovery period. So our recovery for our business is in full bloom. We're seeing a significant pickup in demand for the spring and summer travel season. So I know a lot of people are booking their plans now as we speak to come visit Los Angeles. Unfortunately, most of that is domestic travel as compared to international travel, since most of the borders are not yet open. But it's been a year that we've learned a lot about ourselves. We learned about resilience. We've learned about wellness. We've learned to appreciate all those things that we took for granted in life. At Delta, one of the things I'm most proud of is how well our team took care of each other and our customers through this tough period. We said that was the first premise. We're in the business of safety. That's what we deliver to our customers every single day, their flight safety. And I saw health as the opposite side of the same coin. And we want customers to have the same confidence in their health as they do safety on board Delta flights. And we've done that in so many ways in which we've maintained the freshness of the product, the cleanliness of the product, the mask compliance that we've insisted on, keeping the middle seat open throughout this entire last year, blocking, giving people more space, and then customers responding in record numbers in terms of satisfaction. We saw our Net Promoter Scores rise 20 full points over the course of the last year into the 70s, which is just a phenomenal improvement. So, these are the things we'll be taking out of this as we move forward. We'll be more focused on the quality and the care and the cleanliness and the health and the wellness of each other. And by the way, that includes our mental and emotional wellness as well as our physical wellness. I just hired earlier this year chief health officer for the first time. He's the top doctors from the Mayo Clinic, and his whole focus is not only how we take care of the 75,000 Delta strong that we have, but the 200 million customers as well that we fly every year in a better way. So there's going to be a lot coming out of the pandemic that will make us a better airline and hopefully provide service that people will appreciate even more.
Really appreciate that answer, Ed, when you talk about not only the business at hand for Delta, but when you talk about resiliency, wellness, chief health officers, we oftentimes talk about a new way of doing business. Would you say those themes are part of Delta's new way of doing business?
Absolutely. We're in the business of taking care of people. Our business is travel. People trust us with their travel, but at Delta, we really pride ourselves on the quality of the people we bring to the marketplace and the quality of care we take care of those people. And the better job we do taking care of our people, the better job they're going to be able to do taking care of you and all of you with your travel needs. That confidence, that trust that we have has to be centered, particularly coming through a pandemic, with focus on wellness. And wellness, resilience, again, similar themes, but they have such deep meaning that we're going to be forever changed and forever marked by what we've been through.
Wonderful. That's wonderful to hear you say and speak about that confidence. And I want to pick up on something else that you mentioned, definitely the growth in domestic travel. We're not quite there on international, but you've been the leader in building partnerships across the globe, and in particular with Latin and the partnerships there with airlines in Latin America. I know you've looked at Asia as well, and you have partnerships that you've grown. What is your thinking along, continuing that, or where do you see Delta going in that regard?
Yeah, when it comes to the international travel space, it's going to take a little bit longer to get back as we gain confidence internationally with countries and geographies and regions relative to the virus. We need to make sure that the virus is under full containment in both theaters that we'd operate. So it's going to take a little longer time than domestic, you're right. But despite that, we've maintained very, very close connection and partnership with our main partners. We're owners of all of our partners, pretty much. We own a portion of Korean. We've got an investment in China Eastern. We own 49% of Aeromexico, 20% of the LATAM group down in deep South America. And the reason for making these investments, by the way, in Europe as well, in Virgin and Air France, KLM, and the European range, as well as a good partnership with Alitalia. But the reason we've made the investments is that we want to drive better seamless connectivity between our two companies for our customers' benefit. There's nothing more frustrating as an international traveler when you hand off from one airline to the next. And while we may be part of the same alliance or part of the same, have a commercial relationship, we want you to be treated the same way on Korean as Delta takes care of you. And vice versa. For Koreans, premium travelers, we want to know who they are and how we can provide the same quality service on Delta that Korean expects, so that our brands are going to be different, our product's going to be a little different, our people are going to be different, but the underlying culture of service and hospitality has to be connected, seamless, and consistent. And so you can't do that if you're on the outside in with a contract or through an alliance partnership. You actually have to be in the boardroom. You have to be driving change. You have to be as part of the management team, and you have to find those points of connection that you can draw from. So we've got the best group of partners, I believe, in the world, and we're fine with that. I don't know that we're going to be looking to grow that anytime soon, but we're going to try to continue to grow the closeness of that connection. For example, Korean, which is a major airline, flying to LA from Seoul, is in the process of acquiring Asiana and consolidating that. We're involved with them in terms of providing our insight and perspective as to, we've been through big mergers ourselves here in our country with Delta Northwest, and how we do that, and then thinking how we're going to grow. We're going to grow into Asia from the U.S. and particularly LAX, and how we're going to enable them to grow into the U.S. from Seoul and many other points beyond.
Wonderful. And Ed, when you engage in these partnerships, I imagine you look at Delta's core values and how that could be leveraged with another partner. Could you give us a little insight in your thinking of when you go about building these relationships or looking for those partners to go in deep with?
Yeah. Well, we do not pick our partners easily. We're very tough. We make certain that they do reflect the core values of Delta around service from the heart, servant leadership, trust and integrity, quality of the experience and the product are all on the top of our checklist, as you will. And what we do, and what I do, is I've got a very close relationship with the CEOs of each of those companies, and we talk all the time. We meet often in person. I look forward to getting back to that soon. And our teams spend a lot of time, and in fact, we have members of their team here in Atlanta that are part of our team, and we have members of our team in each of the international locales that keep us integrated to each other. I also hired earlier this year a new head of our international group, a fellow by the name of Alan Belmar. He was just previously the CEO of Bombardier, the large Canadian company, and he had just retired, and I convinced him to come join me. And he's now in charge of managing that portfolio of business and working with each of these international partners to ensure not only that we have good touch points from Delta to each one, but there's good touch points across, horizontally across each of the, from Air France to Virgin to Korean, and the opportunities that reside within that. So I'd say this is the next generation of alliance relationships. We're all part of SkyTeam, but we've taken the SkyTeam from not just a marketing relationship, which is pretty much what the alliances are today, to actually a team of partners that work together and invest in each other, go have common technology standards, common service standards, and a dashboard. And we measure our performance in terms of how we're doing, what we can do to help them and what they can do to help us.
Wonderful. That's so great to hear that at the center of it all is your core values, and you could build upon that. So that thank you for sharing that with us. So we're here in Los Angeles. I know this is a top market for Delta, and like you mentioned, having your team in place, you have a very strong presence here. And this region is in a mode of recovery, with so many businesses having been just decimated with the pandemic. What is your view about Los Angeles, our region, how you see our recovery, maybe in alignment with what Delta's growth plans are? Because I know you have a significant presence here.
Sure. Well, Los Angeles is one of my personal favorite markets. I love to go to LA, and there's no reason why we can understand why it's the number one destination market in the U.S. It's such an amazing, vibrant city with so many opportunities, particularly international opportunities, to experience the best of the U.S. as well as the best of the world. We have been working hard on our terminal project there, and next year, hopefully by mid-year, we'll be opening up our brand new terminal where we've combined terminals 2 and 3, and it's going to be the next generation of terminals with a beautiful, beautiful sky club that's got indoor, outdoor. You're going to be able to see the ocean as well as the Hollywood sign up in the hills. You're going to have the ability for Delta to expand its international footprint, because we're also building a secured access way over to the Tibbet, the Tom Bradley terminal so that customers can come back and forth on Delta from our international destinations. That's that seamless connectivity that I just talked about. We're actually putting into physical motion by building that connector. We've got, when you think about LA, the recovery, it's probably similar to what we're seeing on the East Coast as well. The coastal cities are a little bit delayed. I think most people from the coastal cities kind of moved inland a bit or moved to mountains or beaches or destinations away from large areas of congregation for fear of the virus. And it's going to take a little bit of time to bring people back in terms of the quality, the safety aspect of it, and the wellness aspect of it before people can kind of start to return. But I'm a big believer that the cities are going to come back, the major cities, both in LA, New York, San Francisco. They've been around a long time. They're the heart of our country in many ways, particularly from a commercial standpoint. And I think it's just going to take a little bit longer. So I would hope by next year, when we open that new terminal, that we are having a fairly robust, not just domestic business. I think domestically we're going to be pretty robust this summer. A robust international opportunity next year. And I'm also excited when we open that facility that we're going to be able to fly to many new destinations as well.
That's wonderful. Well, we're very hopeful for next year as well, and know that we will be there to help champion you in that celebration, which I'm sure it will be a celebration.
Sure will.
I have one last question for you, Ed, related to sustainability. And I know it's a pillar for Delta, and certainly being from California, that's a conversation that we're in many industries. But was wondering if you could comment on Delta's view and the work that you have done in that area.
Sure. Well, I mentioned wellness and resilience and health as being some of the key themes that we're going to carry out of this pandemic into the future. And when you think about our own health and the health of our business, we also have to think about the health of our planet in the same way. And that's what sustainability means to us here at Delta. Shortly before the pandemic, we announced that we would become the first international carbon neutral airline and made the commitment to make the sufficient investments in reforestation, green space, clean water solutions, and many carbon sequestration, many other technologies to offset the footprint that we create. And we know in our space, there's many wonderful things about air travel. The thing we don't like as much about is the carbon that it leaves behind. And we've got to go after that. We maintained that commitment last year, even though we had this terrible year, lost a lot of money, but we still maintained the financial commitment to have a sustainable offset year. So even at the reduced levels of flying, we still invested $30 million into the offset technology, which negated the footprint we created in 2020 on that much smaller scale of flying. And we're going to do that every year. And we're going to be investing in things like sustainable aviation fuels, in carbon sequestration technologies, in protection of forestry and the reforestation of the planet, nature's own technology to recapture carbon from the air, trees, and what can we do to protect the health of the planet. And it's going to take a big investment, both publicly with our governments supporting us. I know I've already had quite a few conversations with the Biden administration around that, and we know the importance of that out in California as well as with the new team in Washington, D.C. And we're going to be doing it as a company and as an industry. We're committed to getting to not just that carbon neutral, we eventually want to get to that net zero perspective, which is a long-range ambition. But if you don't have a sustainable planet, we don't have a sustainable business. If our business is going to take the resources of the planet and use them and we're not going to replenish, the world's not going to be, flying. I mean, we're going to find alternative means to transact and get together. So it's the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do and the smart business thing to do.
Thank you so much for those comments. We often talk about here at the Chamber that business is a force for good. And hearing you speak and hearing you talk about sustainability, the wellness in your workforce, it reinforces for us that there are great companies with great stories doing good work because it's the right thing to do. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking the moment to share with this very international virtual audience that, while I know you can't see them and we can't see them, that they very much appreciate you taking the time to share your story, the Delta story, with us. I want to thank you for that, Ed, this morning.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to spend this time with you. I want to thank all of you for joining us. I thank all of you for what you do for Delta. It takes a lot of people to make an airline of this scale, on a global scale, work. We appreciate all the support we receive in LA. We love serving LA, and we love being part of the fabric of your community.
Well, thank you so much, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, for your insights. It will definitely be exciting to see the opportunities unfold for the Southern California region. Now it is time for a short break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the 95th Annual World Trade Week Southern California Kickoff. I hope you've enjoyed our event so far, and there's still some great programming left to go. Please join me in welcoming our featured panel discussion for today, the future of transportation and supply chains. Our expert panel will discuss supply chain infrastructure, transportation challenges, and innovative, sustainable solutions to increasing the region's global competitiveness. This is incredibly important as we are recovering from this pandemic. Michelle Kidman is a Senior Director of Transportation with the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, also known as LACI. In this role, she manages the Transportation Electrification Partnership, a public-private collaboration focused on accelerating transportation electrification and zero-emissions goods movement in advance of the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Commissioner Jamie L. Lee has been president of the Los Angeles Board of Harbor Commissioners since she was first appointed by Mayor Garcetti in 2018 and has chaired the board throughout the pandemic, ensuring that goods could continue to come in and out of our harbors. Yanni DeVell, Managing Director for Delta Airlines Commercial, who is responsible for sales alliances and strategy and has a long-time career in air freight services in 18 countries across North and South America. And our esteemed moderator, Dr. Christina Murata, Managing Director with Deloitte Consulting Group, where she specializes in applying strategy and analytics, technology innovations, and workforce management in the execution of large-scale complex programs. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our panelists for today's program.
Hello, and welcome to you all. The premise of today's discussion on the future of transportation and supply chains is centered on the question of how we can improve global trade flows in more efficient and sustainable ways after COVID-19. The global disruption due to the pandemic hit amidst a convergence of several factors and trends that were already reshaping the transportation and supply chain ecosystems. Things such as a growing awareness of and commitment to a supply chain's carbon footprint, occurring alongside a multifaceted revolution in technologies for clean energy production and logistics efficiency, all coupled with dramatic changes in consumer buying patterns and e-commerce flows. Layering the pandemic on top of all of these highlighted the fragility of interconnected global supply chains. Suppliers and shippers continue to face headwinds in moving goods efficiently. The LA Long Beach Port Complex is America's primary entry point for goods from Asia, and the backlog in shipping traffic is astounding. Peaking at 40 ships in early February, the numbers continue to hover in the 30s, and the average delay to dock is 8 days, triple that of November. Now, backups at ports are only part of the challenges. The global shortage of containers is also astonishing. Global inventory of containers has dropped to 2018 levels, and new container production is at its lowest level in 5 years. Add to this a 40% imbalance in containers, where 60 out of every 100 containers accumulate in the US for a variety of reasons. You can see why there has been challenges in this community. All of this hit at a time of record-breaking shipping volumes. It's easy to understand why the shipping rates from Asia to the West Coast have risen 145% since last year. These are and continue to be sobering times for trade professionals. However, I submit that there is cause for optimism. Our esteemed panelists today will highlight the myriad strategies and innovations that they have employed to overcome adversity during the pandemic, and to do so in a way that engineers sustainability and resilience into the transportation and supply chain operations, today and for the future. We'll explore the value and necessity of partnerships in order to be successful, and examine the ways in which government can be an enabler of this new world. Now, let's dive in. First question. What do each of you see as the greatest challenges facing the supply chain in your respective sectors this past year? And do you see them continuing into the future? Yanni, let's begin with Delta, please.
Thank you, Christina. Sure. The supply chain demand fluctuation and imbalance is quite a crucial component to how we operate. So from our customer demand fluctuating, from CDC guidelines, government regulations, and the overall change that we had to reduce our network from the summer to the spring, really gave us the opportunity to listen to the customers, understand where the demand, especially for air cargo, developed, and we then deployed dedicated cargo-only flights, and also offered our customers some with dedicated charter flights to help relieve some of that congestion and critical supply chain demand that was needed. It's a continuous effort every day. We listen to the market, especially the overspill from the ocean freight container side or the ocean freight activity, because if there's a ripple, it's kind of the air cargo is directly impacted, whatever way, shape, or form. Especially now with the Suez Canal as well, even if it's not directly linked to the U.S. in the foresight, but it does have a ripple effect in terms of the trade that hits the USA, and then also then the air cargo demand to that. We continue to drive and listen to customers. We continue to drive to see how we can make the process easier, especially by introducing paperless flows through the system to make sure that we can adopt and support customers out there.
Thank you. Michelle, would you like to speak to the LA Clean Tech Incubator, or LACI?
Absolutely, thank you. When it comes to transportation, the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator's focus is really on unlocking solutions to advance transportation electrification and zero emissions goods movement. And so when I think about supply chain challenges or opportunities right now, I think of two immediate things. The first is something that's gotten some play in the media of late, and that's really securing consistent and significant supply chains for batteries for electric vehicles, and more pointedly for the lithium that is a critical component of those batteries. To date, we import much of that lithium for our batteries, and we've got a really tremendous opportunity here in the United States, and in particular in California, to develop our own domestic source of lithium through the Salton Sea area, where there's quite a vast repository of lithium that we're able to develop, such that actually that area has been dubbed Lithium Valley. And I think that's a really tremendous area that we need to put attention as a state on developing. And then the second thing I would note is that I think it's really important right now that in California, not only for Lithium Valley, but for all parts of the supply chain for electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging equipment, that we're sending really strong policy signals, and that we are developing and implementing the most creative sources of financing to scale this industry. And to that end, LACI and the members of our Transportation Electrification Partnership are sponsoring legislation right now in California to create what we're calling the California Electric Vehicle Authority, or an EV czar, if you will, that can look across this whole transformation that we need to make as a state and that we're committed to making, to ensure that we have coordination and financing for the whole supply chain industries in this space.
Jamie, would you speak to the LA Harbor Commission?
Our greatest challenges that we've really seen in the pandemic have been around workforce resiliency and supply chain visibility. First, the pandemic highlighted the importance of maintaining a strong and resilient workforce. We have to make sure that workers across the supply chain are deemed essential, that they're equipped with the proper PPE, and receive priority for vaccination so that they continue to work. In the future, this will translate to continued training and opportunity for the jobs of today, and also upskilling and education for the jobs of tomorrow, in addition to long-term health and safety. Second, we have to develop solutions to make the maritime supply chain more nimble and adaptable, with as much visibility on goods movement as possible. This will take a comprehensive effort across all stakeholders, from shippers, transportation providers, port authorities, even policymakers. The long-term opportunity for strengthening our economy depends on identifying and implementing the right types of solutions, because much of the inefficiencies that we're seeing today is due to the fact that we aren't fully certain what will be where and when. One solution that the Port of LA has really been pushing is increased digitization through our port community system, which we call the Port Optimizer. We can supply better visibility, support better asset utilization so that people can mobilize containers or trucks or warehouse space and facilitate better decision making. And to evolve in this area, we really need to break out of our silos and improve information sharing across the system. And I think by doing that, we can better predict where parts of the system are going to be experiencing stress in the future and help users make different routing decisions in response.
Thank you all for those answers. I can tell we're in for a really good discussion. Let's spend a few moments, Michelle, if we may, talking a little bit more about the LA Clean Tech Incubator. You know, as we look for innovative solutions to address the challenges that we've been talking about, regional partnerships are a critical part of the effort to create a sustainable transportation future. The Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator has been a model for forging these crucial alliances. Would you please share a bit about the Zero Emission 2028 Roadmap Coalition, its partners, and how this would impact freight vehicles and related infrastructure?
Sure, happy to. Lacey first convened our Transportation Electrification Partnership in May of 2018. And so we've now got over 30 partners that include state regulators, utilities, local government officials, leading industry players, startups, and labor organizations who have all come together to advance transportation electrification and zero emissions goods movement in the greater Los Angeles region in advance of the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And we've set some very aggressive goals for our region. When it comes to freight in particular, we have set a goal for 40% of all medium duty delivery trucks, 60% of all medium duty delivery trucks to be electric by 2028. And then 40% of all of the short haul and drayage trucks to be electric or zero emissions by that same year. And with that, we're working to ensure that the I-710 corridor that of course comes out of the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach and sees upwards of 36,000 trucks traveling on it each day becomes the first zero emissions truck corridor in the nation, which really requires us to work now as a region to come together and install the charging infrastructure that is going to be necessary for fleet owners and operators to have that confidence that they'll be able to charge their trucks when they make that investment in zero emission trucks. And so we're working now with all of our partners and other allies to both secure additional policies as well as funding to enable the pilots that are going to install charging infrastructure all along the I-710 corridor region and throughout the greater Southern California ecosystem.
You know, as we discuss the unique challenges of pharmaceutical distribution, Delta Airlines has been a key player in transporting COVID-19 vaccines here and around the world. Would you please share with us some of the innovations that took place to support this unique process, and what other solutions had to be implemented by Delta Cargo to navigate the pandemic as a whole?
Sure, Christina. Yeah, one of the key things, you know, the biggest unknown with the COVID vaccines in the beginning stage was just the requirements and constraints. So first and most, you know, safety, effectiveness, and ensuring a secure transportation is offered to move these things. So the approach we did is we established a watchtower, a task force, a very end-to-end white glove oversight from receiving it from the customer through the ramp and loading to ensure that we have that every minute kind of watchful eye on it to make sure it moves as best as possible and fast as possible without any delays. We leverage our global network with our partners, which was quite a unique proposition in terms of getting it to certain locations, as manufacturing and testing sites kind of varies from supplier to supplier. And also the experience of the people we have within the Delta team. They were just phenomenal of the commitment, being on the ramp, getting out there, making sure we are safe, making sure the people are looked after, and also the secure process to make sure we deliver as we promised. This has also helped us speed up some of our innovation in terms of an understanding of the e-commerce evolution of people shopping more domestically, but also cross-border for internationally, and how that behavior is starting to shape now in a different demand in terms of the air cargo space. Which also gave us an additional acceleration towards going paperless, getting more agile with our digital footprint towards our customers to make sure we have more of a host-to-host interface to eliminate, again, waste and paper and spending there. So that was one of the things that helped us understand a better demand from our customers through this entire way. Going forward, what does it mean? We have to adapt. The industry, the suppliers, everybody involved has to learn and understand flexibility with your partners and your network, whatever shape or form that looks like. It's quite a key player in terms of making sure we deliver as we promise.
Thank you. That acceleration towards paperless, I think one of the things we'll see is that this pandemic has just compressed or accelerated things that were already perhaps nascent or beginning to be underway. Shifting a little bit to a sustainability question, Delta was the first airline to commit to becoming a carbon neutral airline globally and announced plans to invest $1 billion in this endeavor. Would you please share with us how this impacts air cargo and what you see on the horizon, not only for Delta, but for the air cargo industry as a whole?
As 98% of our emission is by the aircraft, and one of the commitments we made as well is to accelerate the retiring of our less effective fleet, look in terms of when we can permanently retire them and replace them with a better solution or effectiveness. For the industry, the paperless is also one big component, especially with the fragmented and the very manual intervention logistics supply chain, both from an ocean freight and air freight. I think it's quite a strong message that Delta has taken to the market to say, we want to be paperless. We really want to have that visibility and transparency to our customers that will give everybody a much better seamless process going forward, because that's one of the key things if taking out some of the clutter that is just inherently through the industry.
That is very exciting. And as someone who used to travel a lot by plane, I look forward to returning and applaud Delta for the leadership on this. Let's shift to the Port of LA. Jamie, as we heard from the previous comments, technological innovation is certainly at the core of achieving solutions to the supply chain challenges. We'd love to hear from you about some of the current challenges at the ports and some of the pilot programs that will have wide impact on supply chains all across the nation. For instance, what implications does this have for companies who engage in cross-border trade?
Of course, as you mentioned earlier, and as everyone knows, we've just been managing an unprecedented surge in import cargo since last summer. The e-commerce spending alone in 2020 was 32% higher than in 2019. So business and consumer spending has still not let up in the first quarter of 2021. We're just continuing to see the demand for import cargo. And this behavior is really causing a lot of a chain reaction through the supply chain, including especially labor shortages. COVID-19 has caused labor shortages from the docks all the way through the Inland Empire warehouses. ILWU, our workforce union, knows about 600 to 800 people testing positive and 12 deaths to date that we know of. Social distancing has made it difficult for people in warehouses to work closely together. So because of that additional distancing, there are fewer people per shift, fewer people who are able to work in the warehouses. And then those warehouses are just full. So even as new cargo continues to come in to meet consumer demand, all of these retailers have not moved necessarily all of the merchandise out of their warehouses. So there's actually not anywhere to put them, and the cargo owners are not picking up their containers from the ports or returning them in a timely fashion. As a result, right now our terminal capacity is over 90%, when normally a well-functioning terminal is considered full at about 70 to 80% capacity. And you also mentioned shipping container shortages. The influx of cargo here and at all of the other major world ports has also created a global container shortage. And shippers are paying 3 to 4 times as much to obtain and ship a box from China to the US at substantially higher rates. With empty boxes at a premium, they're actually evacuating them and leaving agriculture and other commodities that could be exported from the US because they tie up more containers as they're waiting to be moved from the coasts inland to pick up those exports. So last month, for instance, for every 4 containers that left our port, there was only 1 that was full, to the enormous detriment of the American exporter. And so this issue actually of carriers evacuating empty containers is being investigated right now by the Federal Maritime Commission. If we really want to retain and grow our leadership in global trade, we also have to look at this situation as a learning opportunity, and technology is really going to be the key to our future success in these areas. As far as innovation projects and looking at sustainability, the environmental challenge, as Yanni was talking about also, climate change is our toughest challenge. We have to make significant progress in reducing our carbon footprint, especially in this most critical decade ahead, and especially if we also want to continue to grow jobs in Southern California. So at the Port of LA, we've set goals of 0 emissions for our terminals by 2030 and 0 emissions for our drayage trucks by 2035 to try to help alleviate this problem. Unfortunately, the biggest challenge, as everyone has alluded to, is that the technology to reach these goals is still in its nascent stages of development. When they are commercialized, we will be the first port in the nation to use them, and we're very aggressively pursuing R&D and demonstration projects in order to help push along not only the development of the technology, but the commercialization and the availability of it. So we're currently engaged in 16 demonstration projects. We're testing 134 units of advanced equipment, including 78 zero emissions trucks, either on the road or in assembly right now. And we hope that hundreds of more pieces of equipment will be deployed in the next few years. And we're also expecting that the costs will come down as they're more commercialized. Right now, the expensive prototypes are incredibly expensive, and the performance capabilities are not quite there yet because the range is limited. For instance, how far a zero emissions truck can dray. Some of our current demonstration projects include looking at terminal reliance on solar power and large-scale batteries to collect and store that solar energy, an on-dock version of a sock on a stack. We had ones that were on tugboats, and that technology was pioneered here at the Port of LA. And we're looking to do something on dock that will control those emissions from ships. And then we've been testing the world's first all-electric top handlers. Right now, Toyota and Kenworth have developed 11 hydrogen cell fuel trucks that we are testing in tandem with Shell, who has developed 2 fuel cell fueling stations, and warehouse equipment for UPS between here and the Port of Hueneme. We're also testing 10 electric yard tractors and 20 renewable gas yard tractors as well.
Jamie, this is just phenomenal. And I am so privileged to be on the panel with all of these organizations. You are all truly at the vanguard of addressing these challenges and doing so with great innovation. I have a background in R&D, so a lot of the challenges that you spoke to, Jamie, really resonate with me. Let's move on to general discussion. One of the things I'm really interested in is how has, for each of your individual organizations, the emphasis on sustainability impacted your supply chains writ large, not just your primary supply chains, but kind of those secondary and tertiary effects of these moves, and how does it, possibly impact others in the industry or adjacent sectors? I'm sure many of the conference attendees are interested in kind of how you've tackled this and what the benefits and challenges have been to you as first movers in this area. And I open that to anyone who would like to go first.
Christina, I'll start. Yanni, I think one of the biggest thing of the success of sustainability is, one of is leveraging your partners and having the right partners and flexibility. I think one thing COVID has demonstrated to us is, I think at one stage, every day the world changed drastically, and you had to understand what it means, and to build the resilience through your people, making sure they're safe and well-being is there, to make sure we can operate from full on-site to being remote within less than 12 hours, 48 hours as a big organizations like the respective panel people. I think one of the things was making sure we have the network, the capability, but also the depth in our partnerships, because that's part of the magic sauce to make sure that you can rely on those people in those times where everything is stress tested, if that's the way to say it. I think what we've gone through the last 1 year, actually starting more to January last year, all the events that happened in the world. We had volcanoes, with the floods in Australia, and then COVID hit us, and then European travel was banned overnight. I think it's just the phenomenal of how people got together, the experience, the collaboration, but also transparency that people say, this is what we can do, how do we do it differently? And I think also technology got so much accelerated that people like me today do a Zoom conference, virtual, which we've never thought we'd do in our lives before. And you can have breakout rooms, you can bring people back, a collaboration that was never thought through, but we've made it work. And I think that's through partnerships of your IT, your technology people, your folks that's helping the tech support people, that it all came together. And I think that's one of the key things of being sustainable and growing to where you go, to make sure you have the right people and network around you.
I agree. I think that everyone in the supply chain has been very receptive to this goal, aspirational or not, or movement towards zero emissions. Everyone who is a human being, who is experiencing climate change, who is seeing, the wildfires in California, who knows that, for the future of our children and grandchildren, we have to do more to create a more sustainable commerce all the way throughout the supply chain. So I think that the will is there and the partnerships are certainly there, but the technology is really not there. The availability, the ability even of the technology that is currently underway needs to continue to be developed. And we have to make that business case as well, because things don't get manufactured unless it makes sense. Things don't get bought unless they make sense. And that's where I feel like, we as the Port of Los Angeles, as the cleanest port in the world, and really trying to push and be an industry leader in this aspect, have to find those opportunities to continue to prove that this technology is viable, that it can be produced, and that it will go further towards achieving our goals.
Thank you both. Sorry, Michelle, please.
I would add that as a clean tech incubator with a mission to create an inclusive green economy, I don't think this is a choice. This is really the way of the future. And what we're seeing all across the board with our work is that the focus, the priority, the mandate now for sustainability is opening up tremendous job opportunities, the creation of new industries, the development of new segments within industries. So I think it's a really tremendous opportunity, and it's part of why we're really excited to see the focus in the president's recent American Jobs Plan that he proposed, the focus on zero emissions. And we think that the heavy duty sector, the heavy duty side of the equation, is really the heaviest lift in the area where we need to put the most focus and the most attention and resources.
Thank you all for your comments. I'm just struck by not only the external pressures of having to respond to the pandemic as a catalyst for this, but also that essential critical mass of folks who are thinking big picture on these things. Shifting briefly, part of my prior career was spent in the federal government. And as I was preparing for this, I really thought a lot about how could government help, not just federal government, but state or local governments? What would be helpful for your organizations to nurture this push towards sustainability and resilience in transportation and supply chain ecosystems?
I think there are a lot of things that government can do. For instance, we desperately need infrastructure. You cannot drive a hydrogen fuel cell truck across the country if there are no fueling stations and infrastructure along the way. That's even for charging for battery electric or any of these things. That's a very coordinated effort, whether it's across the state of California or interstate across the nation. We also need tax incentives to reduce point of sale costs, and we need tax incentives that look at every aspect of that transaction as well. For instance, a truck driver can receive a grant to buy a lower emissions truck, and that will pay for a large portion of that truck. However, he'll still have to pay income tax on the value of that grant. And that's an aspect that really needs to be addressed. And then continued grants. We have so many that we utilize at every level, local, county, state, and federal, to continue the development and implementation of all of these technologies.
Christina, if I may go, I think for me, for us at least, is the government and federal departments to get involved in the local business community. I think that's one of the most crucial ones. If there's a new change, if there's a new requirement, if there's a new regulation coming out, get involved and listen to the business community, because that just accelerates the support, the development, especially to James' point in terms of the ports. I've seen a lot of cities where they are very pro logistics strategy, and they make sure that the airport is cargo friendly and they have enough rail heads to go into certain locations. That makes such a big difference of doing business in that location or that territory. So for me, always is whatever level or whatever government agency, local municipality is, get involved, listen, and take the feedback, because we are there to help shape what we want to all achieve. And then for us to do it, to get infrastructure in place or to understand new regulations coming in and what it will cost the business side of the world or the impact, that involvement, that dialogue has to take place, because that's absolutely crucial for all of us as players in the supply chain.
Lacey and the partners within our Transportation Electrification Partnership last spring put together a $150 billion federal stimulus proposal for zero emissions transportation and infrastructure of all sorts. And so we're excited to advance that, excited to see a lot of those elements coming to light within the proposals that are being discussed in DC right now. And we're really encouraged by the fact that over 100 different organizations all across the country have signed on in support of our proposal, which really says to me that this is an area that is primed for that stimulus, and that folks, have done the hard work of thinking through all of the right mechanisms to deploy that funding in the ways that are going to be most impactful.
Well, we are almost out of time, and as Michelle noted, many of these questions could have been the focus of an entire panel conversation. So I thank you for joining me on this journey. That was very far-ranging. As we look to close out, I would like to give each of you an opportunity to have a few closing comments. And if within that you could weave in any advice you would have for others looking to follow in your path of trailblazing innovation.
Again, collaborative, being transparent, driving to the same opportunities and goals you need to do. I think for the local governments and federal governments, supporting and understanding what the business needs are. And also just, embracing of adapting to technology and take the learnings. We've learned a lot. We've not yet stepped back and then, we said like zoomed out or calendar out already. We need to step back, and then when we meet with people, is reflect on what we've learned and how we can take that knowledge forward. And then again, embrace change of technology going forward, because we do need it. It's part of our lives, and some of the infrastructure we have today is not there yet, as Jamie said. It's very, very at the beginning stage, and those gaps needs to be filled.
I think we heard the word unprecedented more in the last 12 months than anyone has ever spoken that word in the century before. And with so much in flux and with so much change and uncertainty and fear, I just keep thinking about a year ago when we were, in the first couple of weeks of lockdown here in Southern California, and the resilience of our teams, the flexibility and adaptability to change and to, go remote overnight. Essentially, I've been so incredibly proud and so incredibly grateful for everyone around the San Pedro Bay complex in the new partnerships that we've formed, in the ability to keep workers safe and to keep cargo moving. The first few months were just a dramatic decline in cargo volumes. And then since then, the pendulum has far swung the other way, and these are unprecedented surges in volumes that we have never seen before. And we continue not only to address the immediate emergencies and finding ways all along the supply chain to help and address and relieve the stress that we're facing, but we have not taken our eye off of the ball of our sustainability goals and our emissions reduction goals either. We continue to push on all of these demonstration projects. We continue to develop more. We're continuing to announce additional grants that we've received and new projects that are coming down the pike. And so I think that workflow in tandem to address the fire at hand, but then to be able to continue along the path of our long-term goals for the health and safety of our region is so critical. And so I've just been very thankful for all of that.
It's really exciting for me in the role that I play directing our Transportation Electrification Partnership to see all of our partners from diverse sectors coming together, sitting around the table, rolling up their sleeves and saying, okay, here's the problem that we're trying to attack. How can we work together to move things more quickly towards the goals that we have I think just making sure to reach out and to find those unlikely allies and to work together is the path forward for the future.
Thank you all so much. I think time has just flown by. Some of the themes that really came out from all of your comments, and you just hit on these in your closing remarks, is this notion that we have to embrace change and seize the opportunities in front of us in terms of harnessing innovations and really seek intentionality in building diverse partnerships to make sure that all of our changes are sustainable and scale. So I am actually heartened and bolstered by all the things that you are doing. I would like to thank each of you for your time today, for your leadership in your respective industries, and your continuing commitment to shape the future of transportation and supply chains. It was a great pleasure to spend some time with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, Michelle, and Yanni for the informative discussion on the future of transportation and supply chains. And Dr. Murata, you led a fantastic panel. And I'd like to say thank you to all of today's sponsors, speakers, and our attendees who made this program possible. Also, thank you for having me today. It's always an honor to be your host. At this time, I'd like to welcome Maria Salinas to share a few words to conclude the 95th World Trade Week virtual event.
Thank you, David. Wow, I hope each of you enjoyed today's event as much as I did. Today's program was one of our best yet. We heard from so many leaders already in the industry, as well as the leaders of tomorrow. Throughout this last year, things may have been difficult, but now we look to the future with hope and recovery, and seeing you all here gives us even more optimism that we can truly create a thriving region for all. Thank you again to all our sponsors, the World Trade Week Committee, and to each of you for your dedication to the industry and for attending this year's World Trade Week celebration.